right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. This is our first online Women in Business workshop for this cohort. And we are having one today with Fatima Alimohamed, who for some of you might be your mentor. For others, this might be your first time seeing her or being on a workshop with her. It promises to be a very insightful workshop. So I hope you have your pen and paper or notepads, whatever, ready to take notes. We will be taking attendance for all workshops, just because we want to know who is participating. And afterwards, there might also be some assignments that you will be giving. Also, we are recording this workshop, so parts of it that do not contain any personal information in terms of any person or business, those parts will be made available afterwards as well. So I will be sharing Fatima's presentation shortly, and I'll check to see that everyone is able to see it. So I would like to give the floor to Fatima to perhaps give a short introduction, and then we would start. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And I'm so sorry. I'm actually using my phone because power just went off in the middle of getting on. So clearly, Ghana Day. So please bear with me as I do this. And thank you very much for coming to this workshop. I'm hoping that I'll be able to help you in terms of at least the starting part of understanding how you get to know your market and also how you should be able to look at opportunities to grow. For those that I'm already mentoring, this is going to be a part of the journey that we're going to take. Some of you will already know that we've done certain things of what I'm presenting in here. But this is just to give you a good indication on that. So, yep, welcome. And we'll go through this. And I'd ask if you have any questions to please leave it towards the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Are you able to see my screen?
I can. I'm going to use my laptop. I'm not sure about the viewers if they can.
Yes, it's clear.
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Great.
great.
So great. Thank you very much, Jemima. And thank you, everyone, for allowing me to do this. I really love being able to share thoughts and opportunities, and more so from an African perspective, and also taking into account what the global markets are looking for. And one of the challenges that we realize for most businesses, regardless of the stage that we're at, is that we look at it from the perspective of what we know, and then we confine ourselves to what we know in that space. But how funds work, and especially for all the businesses, everyone's always looking for funding and money in terms of how can they get access to it. You have all gone through probably pitch decks and seen the kind of things that they want. But what they tend to look at is always an opportunity. What is the untapped opportunity, the potential? To be able to get to that, you also need to understand what are your shortcomings, what challenges does the market face, and then what challenges do the service industry or the consumer industry have, and then be able to take it from there and say, what can we do? So this is just going to be a shortcut approach to how can we be able to understand the market. I'm not going to do the typical SWOT analysis. I'm not going to be telling you how to find your target audience, because those are given, but we can do that later, because that also has a key element. You'll see me always asking, what is your primary, what is your secondary market? What tier are you looking at? Those are very important, because then you do know which is your cash cow, which is the part of the business that's going to bring you the money, and then which one is an addition to it. So today what I've done is, because I know that quite a few of the mentees that are also on the program are cutting across various segments in terms of agric. We're talking about cosmetics, we're talking about fashion, we're talking about personal care, home care. So whatever we're going to go through today is going to be able to cut across that. So I'll jump to the next slide. Um, Yep. So this is basically all about just tools and mindsets. I'm a firm believer in psychographics and not demographics because consumers have moved away from thinking from that perspective of demographics. So you have been taught perennially to think about consumers and markets based on age, income levels, where they live and stuff like that. But that has changed tremendously now. So, for example, you will realize that one person may have a job, but they also have a hustle on the side of the business. That is not being captured in terms of that being an extra income. So, if somebody, let's say, is on a salary of 5,000 CDs or 10,000 CDs, they're probably doing something else on the side that is bringing them 2,000 or 3,000. That is not being captured in terms of income, number one. Number two, demographically, it has been broken down to look at markets based on rural and what you call it, urban. But we don't realize that even in the urban markets, we have people living in a rural way. So let's say if we took about an area like Cantonments or Labone, which is supposed to be considered to be posh or airport or upmarket, you do have people that are living below the poverty line within those areas, people who are house helps or whatever, who find rooms that they go share. And they have kiosks in those areas, which means that people who are in the urban spaces who can afford, who are in their 20, 30,000s, are still coming to buy products that are appealing, or one sachet or a small product that is supposed to be for the mass market. And then you go to the rural areas, you would see people like ministers or business people who still own five bedroom houses, four-bedroom houses, even in the rural, yet it's supposed to be considered people living below the poverty line. So the idea is that people are now purchasing things based on psychographics. So, for example, you will have somebody who is going to be like if you went to the Cantonments market, which burned down. They were selling a lot of brands, even though they were considered to be fake. So you would find your Gucci with the wrong spelling, or you'd find it with the correct spelling. You will find people buying Louis Vuitton. So what it's telling you is that the person who's actually wearing a Louis Vuitton, genuine, who's buying it for $1,500, his staff will probably come in with a fake Louis Vuitton trainers. So it's about mindset because it's telling you that people are now buying it based on what they know, not necessarily based on the way it's priced. Okay. So that is going to be another section, that how do you appeal to your market, but understanding what's in their head and not based on their incomes. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we like I'm talking about, which is a fundamental fact that everybody needs to understand, is that markets are changing based on needs and wants, and we're going to touch on that. So what somebody wants is not necessarily what they need. What you need, your market, your consumers, your buyers, even if you're in trading, the people who are trading agri products like cashew and all that, it's based on a need. What does the customer need? A want is anything that is luxury, anything that is extra, right? So we're seeing that consumers are no longer being consistent. So what you knew and that particular customer is going to continue buying, no, they're changing on a daily basis. They're changing based on where they live. They're changing based on what they think. And what we're seeing is that these small changes are actually having a huge impact on businesses because you don't know how to keep track with the shifts that are happening as you blink your eyes. And that's where the starting point is about the portfolio, which we're going to go through. How do you make sure that you are playing in the different spaces, or what we call white spaces? And you don't have to be in everything. You have to be very focused on which market do I think I can play in? How much of that share can I take based on the resources that I have currently? And what do I see that as I progress, what are the opportunities then going through in that? Next slide, please. So I've given you an example here in terms of, I think this is gone, wait a second, it's showing me a different slide on mine. Sorry. Okay, so sorry, no, go ahead, sorry. So why understanding your market is a non-negotiable. So one of the things that I'm talking about there is that a deep market understanding is what really helps, because a product is a product, but then to convert a product to a brand really requires you to understand the markets, the needs, what's making them tick, why would they buy you, what is your unique selling proposition, what is the difference between your product and somebody else's product, what can you compete in a market where everybody else is doing the same thing as you? So let's say if you were talking about cocoa powder, or you're looking at banku flour, or you're looking at cassava flour, what really would be different? So those that are working with me as my mentees, you will see that we're looking at what are the differentiations that you have and what is the area that you could be playing in. Okay, most important for me always is the hidden opportunities. Where do you feel there is an opportunity? And this is what we call white spaces. But to do that, you first need to map out the market and be able to say that this is the space that everybody is playing in. I want to also play in that space. Is there going to be something that I can do that is different? Or is there an opportunity where somebody else is not playing with that same product? What could I do to it or add to it that will make a difference? And again, make me within the same category but not in the category. So that's what we talk about, really identifying hidden opportunities. Then what becomes important is your resources. Now I know that whenever we speak, on businesses, and whether it's startups or growth stage, the biggest element comes in terms of funding, resources, the money that we have. Should I put it in marketing? Should I put it in paying salaries of ideal kind of people that will be able to make a difference, technical skills. So the question that comes in, where do I put this? And then also from the categories or the products or the brands or the services that you're in, I keep saying this, that you have to know how to play in two spaces. One is there's some products that are going to give you high margin, low volume, and there are those that are going to be high volume, low margin, right? So you want to always play in both, because the high margin, low volume is what is going to contribute to take care of the extra resources that you require. Then we look at it from assumptions. Now, assumptions is something that a lot of you, I have realized, are not doing, and a lot of businesses as well, even those that have really achieved growth, is because we work on the premise that everything will be the same as is. But what we need to do is always take scenarios and assumptions of worst case scenario, worst case assumption, and what does that mean, that if my costs increase, how does that impact me? Now, I'll give you local examples of certain brands in Ghana that have been able to do a big a change. So most of you know about Yaz. Yaz actually started as sanitary pads. Then they moved into diapers. They got out of the diapers. They decided, okay, they want to just play in sanitary. Then they decided to go into tissues. But if you look at what they did was, while they were playing in the space of hygiene, they realized that hygiene does not necessarily mean only to do with feminine, whatever. Why can't we play in hygiene to do with oral care, other spaces? So they went and introduced their toothbrushes because they saw a gap in that space. And today they are now leading as the number 3 brand in oral care. Yet you have brands like Colgate, which are market leaders. You have Pepsodent, which is a market leader. But they've been focusing more in terms of toothpaste. Here, these guys decided to go and come in with cheap toothbrushes, give you the right Bristol, and go in that. So they identified a space. Another one is the brand that I worked on, FMCG, Wilmar. If you look at it, Fritol continues to be the lead. That doesn't necessarily mean that as much as they're market leader, there are gaps in the market. And that's why you're finding brands that have come in, such as Hayat. You're finding brands like Home Foods coming into play in that space, because they realized there was a gap when it came to price and what people are looking. So they went and played on a differentiation of price. Next slide, please. So when you do a market structure, it's very important to understand that markets are defined based on what we call perfect competition. Then you're either playing in a space of where it is monopolistic, where you're the only person who's able to provide that, or you're playing in an oligopoly where other people have similar brands to you. Duo, where there is a similarity between yours and another. And then again, monopoly, which is the key. Now, what we want to focus is only the two ends, perfect competition and monopoly. And I'm going to take you through that, because you want to be able to, when you define your brands, define your portfolio, define the category, define the service, whether you're in import, export, you have to look at which space do you want to play. And most of the times, you're not in a monopolistic state. You are in what we call perfect competition. And competition is great because what it means is that ultimately somebody is going to have to win based on what is it that you're going to do for the person who's going to pay for your service, your product, your brand. What is it that they're going to get as a value addition? So I'm going to take you through the difference between these two, and then as you go along, these are the questions you're going to ask when you go back to the drawing board to say, where do I play? So next slide, please. So on the perfectly competitive market, what it means is that this is a market where the structure is many sellers and buyers in the market. And that's where majority of you are. I would say 99.9% of all your businesses are playing in this space. And what it means is that the products that you have are homogeneous products, and they are able to supply the needs majority and also the wants of all these other players. And what it does is that when you come in this space, it means each one of you, and when I say you, it means the brand, the service that you're offering, has a certain pattern, a certain behavior. Now, if I took one of the mentees, for example, who's doing oats, who's doing cereals, who's doing pancake mix, you will see that they are able to identify and segment. So what they've said is we're playing in the space of wholesome foods. While we do the wholesome foods, we're trying to say that yes, everybody else is doing boffer flour, but ours is different because we are pushing it and promoting it based on its health benefits. So that means that you have chosen a behavioral pattern for that category and for that brand. And then the information that you have has to be perfect, which means that are you able to understand the offering of what you're putting? So I remember in the last week or two when I was speaking to some of you, I realized that you have amazing products, but you're missing out just certain elements. Like, why are you not mentioning on the packaging that it's natural, or it's that 100% organic, or it's 100%? So you then realize that the questions you ask then tells you, oh, wait a second, the reason I can't say organic is because I am not able to go back to source or the farmer or whoever's providing me the ingredients, because they will also need to have the certification to be able to use the word organic. But does that mean it doesn't stop me from saying that I could use the word natural if your product is natural? So we need to be able to collect all those informations and things that we need to put on that. Now, perfect competition also helps you to be able to have a very good access to free entry and exit of markets. This is what we call a strategy when especially you're going into the export markets, for which most of you are looking at going into. So when you are able to structure your services, your brands, your products in that manner, it becomes easier for any applications that you put in for export to give you free access into those markets, because you're able to meet a certain checklist in that. And for all of you that are in business and you do understand what we call elastic and inelastic demand curves. If you don't, please make sure you drop me a message for those that are in my team, so that we can be able to explain that to you, and how that correlates to your pricing, and how you have to make sure that in your pricing you are taking what we call your cost of goods sold. How are you ensuring that the revenue that you generate, how are you differentiating when you're doing your costing to make sure that your direct expenses, your indirect expenses are covering certain elements, which then that does not affect your competitiveness. So I don't know how many of you are doing that. If you're not, that is something we need to look at and see how can you be able to play in that space without eating it into your margin. Next slide, please. Now, the monopoly markets, remember I said that you only want to be in this two, and most of you are playing in the perfect space. But this doesn't mean that you cannot become a monopoly. And I'll tell you how you can become a monopoly, because that defines when we start looking at the spaces and the portfolios and the categories that you want to play. So in a simplistic manner, monopoly basically means a market that has the following elements. It's a single seller. It'll be either a firm, an industry, or it can be an entrepreneur who is doing something that nobody else is doing. It could be somebody who's creating certain artifacts or crafts, or creating unique kind of, let's say, products or chocolates or cosmetics, which nobody else is doing. Sorry, that's the problem about using my phone. Calls come in. They have a market power. They're able to determine what they do. And this is a place you would normally want to start with. But that only happens when you look at the gaps in the market and you're able to say, sorry, I'm sorry, I have to keep doing that. um, you have to be able to say that nobody else can do this. This is something only I can do. And it also gives you an opportunity to do what we call price discrimination, because that means you can actually fleece the market based on the price that you choose to demand, because nobody else is that market. So whatever you choose to ask for is what they're going to get, as long as there is a need and a want for your product. And what this does is it also creates a blockage of entry to anyone else, unless they're able to improve or offer something that is missing in your space. Now, that being said, next slide, please. So what I normally try to tell people who are in business and people who are coming in as entrepreneurs is always try to look for the monopolistic opportunity, because when you're in a space, this is what we call the blue space. So there's something called red spaces, blue spaces. Red spaces is where you have many people fighting in that space. There's a lot of blood. That's what we call in terms of marketing. Blue spaces open the opportunities in there. So what we say for businesses, when you're looking at growth opportunities, let's identify what are the unique elements your product, your brand, your service has that you think we could be able to add value to it and enter. Now, it doesn't mean that you've got to change your brand strategy. It doesn't mean that you've got to change your business strategy. It could be just simple things that you do that you add to your, let's say if you're playing in the space of the category of, let's say, cereals, you might realize that, wait a second, people are doing things that have just got to do with rice and wheat and maize or whatever. Could there be a market that is actually looking for something that would require moringa in it? Could be somebody looking at saying that, wait a second, we think that we would like something that is going to give us a menthol element. So a space that nobody has played. But we first are obviously going to go and identify what the needs are and then go into that market, into that space. Next slide, please. So when we talk about monopolistic competition, remember the product is monopolistic in nature, but the beauty about this is that it goes and plays in a space where there are many sellers. Vis-a-vis playing in a space of perfect competition means everyone's a competitor. In this one, what you're able to do is to go into that market and pick your product or create a product. So you do, your R&D, your new product development that will identify what your competition is doing. I don't know how many have actually picked, let's say, your competitors' products. How many of you, for example, on a every 3 month basis or a bi-monthly or every quarter, go to the market to pick your competitors' products, look at the ingredients and see what has changed. Because if most of you don't do that, then you won't even realize that your competition are changing things based on the market situation. So for example, at one point in time, one brand was doing 900 ml where your competitors were at 1 liter, but the competition was able to sell 900 ml at the price of 1 liter. Today you go into the market, everyone, for example, if you look at the oil segment, they have dropped it to 850, but they're selling it to you at the price of 1 liter because of the CD and the whole appreciation. So businesses are having to change their elements. Now you pick another brand of oil, it's actually mixed. It is not 100% vegetable oil, they're mixing it with something else. So it's important because you need to keep track of what your competition is doing, because you could still be selling and doing everything that you're doing based on your current model, whereas in your competition has changed their strategy. You're not aware of it. You're trying to reduce your prices, but you're not competitive because they have changed their formulation. They've changed what they're putting on their packaging, and you haven't been keeping track of that. So this is something that I ask businesses to consistently do. Please always bring in your competitors' products, spend money, put in a budget just for competitor analysis, bring it down. Always make sure you look at their products, look at their services, keep checking what's happening in the market because they're changing faster, but you're continuing to do what you need to do. Next slide, please. So this is the part that I love. This is the starting for most businesses. Now, what we realize with entrepreneurs when we do, right, we go in and we say, oh, I want to go into this segment. I'm going to play in the cosmetics area, or I'm going to play in the food, or I'm going to play in beverages. But we don't define them as categories. Now, those that are, again, part of my mentees, you will have seen something that I shared with you just to get your thinking. And for those that are not part of the cohort. So one example I keep sharing is Coca-Cola. So you have Coca-Cola as the mother brand, and then Coca-Cola has different products. It has Coke, it has Sprite, it has Fanta, it has the flavored ones, and then under Fanta, it has Fanta pineapple, Fanta this, Fanta that. Under Coke, it has Diet Coke, it has Cherry Coke. So it is important to look at what space are you playing, because if you see what they've done is they're able to appeal to different players. If you're in detergent, do you have detergent that's only for whites? Do you have detergents for that can be used for whites and blues? Do you have detergents that are only for baby care? So it's important to define your category, because as you define your category, that's when you're able to look at your competitors. Where is there a gap? Who is able to play in that space? Is somebody playing in that space? What can you do that can come in differently? So category portfolio, the first thing you really need to go back and ask yourself is that, what business am I really in? So you'll find that some of you are in spaces where, okay, I'm doing sauces, but I'm also doing flour, and then I'm also doing certain snacks. So are you in the snack business? Are you in the sauce business? Or are you saying that I will be in the culinary space? Or am I going to be in the herb space? So you've got to define that. So you can choose to be in all of it. But when you're in all of it, then you'll say, okay, I'm going to play in the space of culinary. Now, under culinary, I'll be doing sauces. So from sauces, these are the spaces I want to do. I want to have ready to eat sauces. Do I want to pay in spice sauces? Do I want to pay in traditional sauces? Okay, if I want to go in under herbs, what kind of herbs am I looking at? Am I looking at blended as one aspect? Am I looking at real raw spices on their own? Am I looking at traditional spices? So when you do that in that way, you then know what you're supposed to be producing. Some things may not be for this period, this phase. It might be something that you can think in the long term. So that's what category portfolio does as you do it. Now, you can see that I've split it just for now in terms of hair care, snacks, hygiene, condiments. Hygiene could be various kinds of hygiene: body care hygiene, hair care hygiene, oral hygiene. So you've got to define it in that way so that as you do it, you know which one you're going to play in. Because when people are going to put in money and they're putting investment in you, they want to know, which is what we're going to come into next, that what is the size of that market? What is the value of that market? Why should I give you $1 million? Is the market that you're going to be playing in 5 billion worth? So we need to work on this category because that determines the space you're going to play. So I've given you examples, like if you were looking at skincare, would you be looking at skincare just being facial? Would it be body? You've got to split it down in that space. So one of the exercise I would like you to take from today, and something that I'd like you to work on, is look at your current products, your current brands, your current categories, and really define what category are you playing in. And it's okay not to know, and it's okay to be in multiple categories, and then look at that and say, where do you want the future to be, right? And take your existing products and categories and put them down, put them: oral care, hair care, personal care, men care, baby care. Break them down. I mean, you've got to go into that nitty gritty, because then that defines, if you, let's say you're playing in the spaces of just say tires, because I'm sitting in an office to do with tires. You could say, I'm playing in the space of trucks, I'm playing in small vehicles, I'm playing in agri space. You've got to define it, because that's how then you know who are the markets and the people that you're going to be going to. There will be those that are going to be multiple users. And then one example, I don't know how many of you know Recare. Recare is a brand that had launched in Ghana. And what they thought was that They wanted to play in the space of just hair relaxers. And they went beyond that. And then they said, no, wait a second, we now want to go into scalp therapy. So anything to do with scalp. It's dandruff, whether it's oiling the hairs because they felt it was dry. They have gone to the extent of now creating barbershop kits for men. So they've gone and expounded. So while they're playing in the space of hair care, they have defined under hair care what are the spaces they want to play. So category portfolio is very, very key in this. Next slide, please. Okay, so in here, if we go into now, this might be something new for all of y'all, or for some of y'all, I don't know, but I just want to take you through it so that you can understand how the TAM framework works. So basically, what total available market does, I think if you can jump into the next slide for me, because then it'll be no, sorry. Okay, sorry. Sorry. Jemima, because on mine I think on yours it's moved to something else. Okay, so just remain on that, the framework. So basically the TAM, SAM, and SOM. Basically, TAM stands for total available market. SAM stands for serviceable available market, and SOM is for serviceable obtainable market. So if you are ever going to go and ask for funding and pitches and ask for people to fund your business, this is something you need to know. Okay, you have a lot of places that you can get this information, data, import data. There's stuff that's online. You can just check in terms of the Ministry of Trade and Industry. They put in a lot of reports on the kind of imports that have come in for those who are competing against imported products. You look at a lot of areas that get reported by World Bank to be able to arrive at these figures. Now, what total available market represents, it basically says your entire market of your product. So I'm going to give you examples, so don't worry about this. Entire market of, let's say, if you were to do in Ghana and you're saying you want to play in the space of cocoa. So you're going to take, you want to play the space of chocolates, let's say. So you're going to first find out what is the total size of cocoa, okay? What is the value of that business, and what does it do? So here I've taken an example of snack food. So what are the total snacks in here? And snacks will be the imported snacks. It will be crisps. It will be your plantain chips. It will be your bitters. It will be all the things that we produce locally. Everything is going to be taken as a value. And then you say, okay, so wait a second. What I'm looking at, I want to be able to serve only this market of the snacks. I want to play only in the plantain chips. Okay. So what you do is you have to go and find out what is the value of the plantain chips. Now here it covers everything. The people who are selling it on the streets, the ones that are packaged, those that are sold unwrapped, those are wrapped, those that are branded, not branded. What is the value of that? So assume that we say, okay, that total is right now at $10 million. Okay, the big market size is at 100 million. Then you say, but wait a second, I can't go and take the total 10 million. So with my business, I'm currently doing a revenue of, let's say, $200,000 or $100,000, but I feel there's a potential. This thing is 1 million. What can I do? How much do I think I can take of that? Can I take 1%? Can I take 2%? What is the value of it? So what happens is that you come and you create a realistic opportunity of this is what I can take. So service obtainable means what I can obtain based on my number of personnel that I have in terms of salespeople, the number of equipments and machinery that I have. It can produce this much per day. Is the capacity utilized? Now you could say that, wait a second, my 3 machines right now are running full throttle. Now, if I want to take a chunk of that 1 million, I want to take maybe 200,000. What do I need to do? Do I need to get an extra machine? So this helps you to say that with the current resources that I have and the potential that I can add, what can I do to take that market? So this is how we're going to, and I'm going to give you 3 examples of it. Next slide, please. So we were talking about market needs and wants. Okay. Now, a need is a basic necessity to have a roof over your head, to be able to have a car, to be able to pay school fees, to be able to whatever. So The same thing happens with people's kitchens, people's homes, people's skincare. There's something that defines a need. A need is something that is addressing a core problem. It's what customers need, consumers need, whether it's food, it's cleanliness, whatever it is. So you are playing in the space first of the need, the basic need that is needed. And then the wants are basically anything that is aspirational. Okay, I want to buy a product or cosmetic product that is going to be able to give me, is able to take care of my face. I just need it to be moisture, or it's dealing, my need right now is to deal with eczema. But now I'm looking at a product that will be able to not only take care of my eczema, but also give me a glow. I want it to be able to give me a little feel of a bronzer. All right. So you're looking for an eczema product that is going to be able to take care of also the element of giving you a bronzer effect. So that is a want. Sorry, why do needs to be stable in terms of categories, how it helps you, the different regions that you're going to be able to play, the different geographies that you're able to play in terms of export markets. Emotional buying in is very, very important because people do buy things based on emotions, all right, and also based on what societal needs and what they think that they need to have. So an example that I'm putting there for you is Dettol. So Dettol's reason that was created was to play in the space of hygiene. And then they went and created what we call Western recreation luxury brands. So they have moved into stuff like the shea body oil, but based on Dettol. Now it's not available in this market, but in other markets have been able to do that because people were still looking for the smell of Dettol, which makes them feel clean, which makes them feel that they're pure. It means that they are disinfected in that space. But it took care that there was a want that was there, that they still want to have luxury, they still wanted to be able to feel that they are falling in that, but under the space of safety, because Dettol plays in the space of safety. All right. So what we're seeing as an insight here is that if I bring it closer to Ghana, origin, this is it can't, it doesn't work in East Africa, but works fantastically well in West Africa, because West Africa, everything that consumers use here are based on herbs. Everything you talk about herbal, they're all about it. Now imagine bringing a herbal drink and allowing it to be alcohol. So it's been able to play in the space that refreshment, because somebody wants to be able to have alcohol, have it chilled, recreation, go and have it with your friends socially. But at the same time, it's also met the need of a cultural connection to the roots. So this is how you see brands get created. We need to identify those elements. Next slide, please. Okay. So in here, what we're saying is that we have to do what we call market mapping, and I'm going to show you that in terms of how we're able to do that. So what you do is, again, homework, go onto a piece of paper and put price versus quality. What is your price versus your quality? You plug in your competitors and you look at what are they currently selling as a price and what is the quality against what you are currently doing. Then you go and play on the space of what is mass versus niche, because remember we're talking about high margin, low volume, so that is niche. Mass volume, low margin, that is going to be for mass market. And then you take your element, again, you look at local versus imported, and you say, how can I play against this? Because you're going to be looking at the export market later. So based on what you have, do you see that you're able to compete? Now, I'll give you a brand here, Kivo. If you remember when Kivo just entered, but they've entered as a local brand, but their look and feel and their strategy and their marketing is totally imported. So you need to be able to plug it in that way. So second homework for the day is to look at your top five direct and indirect competitors. Now, direct are the ones that are directly competing against you. Indirect are the ones that you know that somebody will go and buy an element of it. So let's say if you're playing in the herb space and you're saying, okay, I'm going to be doing the chilies or I'm doing ginger powder, your indirect competitors are the cubes, because that becomes an additive to it. Okay, place all your competitors on that against this axis and then identify gaps, because you realize, oh, wait a second. So I'm seeing high priced, I'm seeing medium priced, and I'm seeing quality high, I'm seeing medium. There's a gap in this space. So that's what we call white spaces. That what can I do to be able to come and play in those spaces when nobody is able to play, which then also goes and ties back to what I was telling you about monopoly brands. Because if nobody's playing in that space, it means you can be the first to enter and you create a monopolistic opportunity. So an example is Cleasoft. Most of you have seen it. When they came in first in detergent, and then they went and they said, oh, wait a second, nobody's playing in the space of serviettes locally. It's all important. Let's play into that. So they were the first people to come in. You look at Madar. Madar came in, started with detergents. They went into laundry soaps. So they were the people that came in and played and said, wait a second, nobody's addressing this market on a price point. Obviously, quality wasn't something that they looked at. They felt that anybody is willing to buy because the current economy was not allowing people to buy aerials and whatever else. And yet there is an aerial market. So you look at aerial, like I've said, premium, it's still imported, it's not being produced. Yet Ariel is still the number one seller in Ghana. All right, which means nobody has been able to create a product that is able to appeal and meet that particular need against Ariel. So once you're able to put it and create that category map, then you will know where should you really be playing, where should you be able to spend your advertising spend, where should you be able to spend your time on formulation, registration, all that, because you want to be able to work in that white spaces. Next slide, please. So how do you find these white spaces? I've already told you what we need to look at is unmet needs, unmet wants, things that consumers, and most of the times you have to put yourself into that space. That what would you have wished that you could have to use in your skin? What would you able to have wished to be able to use in your kitchen? What do you think is going to be able to deal with elements that can work? So what we need to look at, and this is why, if you notice, for those that I'm working with, I ask you what is your social media handles, right? Because it's very important to understand that now your target markets are not the elderly, are not people who've achieved, people who've matured, because people who are in the matured stages are not going to change their habits. People 40 and above, 45 above, we are already comfortable with certain things that we're willing to do, unless something is able to come in and say that I'm offering it to you at a better price or the quality is better, then only are we willing to shift. But we are sort of stuck to the things that we're comfortable with. So your target right now is mainly Gen Zs, the future. These are the people who are going to be buying from you for the next 10, 15 years. Have you understood their needs? Have you understood their wants? Where are they currently buying it from? It's very important to look at the channels. Are these people buying from groups that are on WhatsApp saying, okay, I'm going to the market. Can I buy little for everyone? Can I buy bulk? Are they buying it at grocery stores? Are they buying it as kiosks? Are they buying your products at hair salons? So once you understand the channels as well, you look at the pack sizes, you look at the pricing gaps. I know some people who are saying, okay, I want to go and do a single serve. Another one is saying, I want to do a 250 gram. I want to do a 75 gram. You need to know why. Why are you doing that? Is it because your competition is doing it, or is it because you really think that the consumer needs it in that? So when you do this mapping, it helps you to understand that, wait a second, there is a space for me to address this, because everybody's following the norm. Why is everybody selling everything in 75 gram, 25 gram, 50 gram? Why hasn't somebody not thought about 125 gram, right? So when we follow what competition's doing, it's just like one blind is leading the other. So we need to be able to go and assess the market. And it's okay to do what the market's not doing. But again, addressing it based on a need and want. Next slide, please. So I've done this to quickly share with you just examples. Jemima is obviously going to share this presentation with all of y'all. I just want to show you what we mean about white spaces and thinking differently. So this is an example of a smart grocery that is being done where people are using AI to create meal kits for company. So they're curating DIY meal kits that, based on AI, wait a second, this particular person is eating this. How can I create a meal? Is it a person on a diet? Is it a person who's busy, is working, adults? So they realize that people don't have time. So they've gone and created using AI to give them an opportunity to find a target audience and create meal kits for them. Next option. Sorry, next slide. Next slide, Jemima. Sorry, thank you. So here you can see this is called snackable chicken. So what they've done in here, I don't know how many of you have pets. So, we have what you call treats, and these treats are normally in single sticks given like this, and you give them one. So, somebody went there and said, wait a second, how come we don't have this for adults, people who are hungry, people who are looking for something? So, we do it in Ghana already with plantain chips, we already do it with yam chips and stuff like that. But somebody went and said, we have people who are looking for protein, because protein is the biggest driver right now. The people looking for flavor, they're looking for snacks. What can we do where we can create chickens, chicken strips or chicken sticks, put in the seasoning, do what we do, and provide it as a nutritional boost. So people just buy it, ready to go. You go to the gym, you continue to chew it, and you're ready. So it's something that you can carry in your bags. Nobody's doing that here. So is there an opportunity for somebody to look at? These people have done it in different flavors. They're targeting adults. They have got different ingredients, different types of meat. I came across somebody recently. I just saw it for the first time in Ghana 2 days ago, and it is being sold at the Shell supermarket. Somebody's doing spicy beef dried, which is similar to the South African biltong, and I really, really liked it. I've never seen it anywhere. So it clearly shows that there is a market that is looking for something like that. And can we have somebody who's saying that I will go into that space? Next slide, please. Who would have thought of a de-stressor beverage, a beverage that is supposed to come in and help you with stress? Now, normally people think about de-stressors being alcohol, or things that you're going to take to energy drinks or whatever. Here is somebody that thought of an opportunity to say, okay, how can I create products that will not have sugars, will not have caffeine, that will come in as natural? So Trip, for example, is a drink that is cucumber, mint, and it's all being pushed as a de-stressor. They're packaging it in cans. Who says it can't be done in PET bottles? And what they realized was that insight in this was that Western world are living a very high stress life. What can they do to balance work with personal life without having to have alcohol as being a key element? So somebody said that, what is stopping us to be able to look at this? And this came in because somebody went, did the mapping, and said, wait a second, competition are doing this, market is doing this. Where is the opportunity? What can I do? Next slide, please. Somebody went and just decided, okay, wait a second, why don't I create low alcohol beverage? So ABV stands for alcohol beverage volume. Why don't I create pouches that will be able to, somebody can just carry it with them. They can go to parties and whatever and continue to enjoy their drink without having to worry about the prices that they have to pay. A lot of times the issues that they were having was temper proof products. So now somebody can be able to take their own, take it with them, carry it, and be able to have it in squeezable pouches, because everywhere you go you get those little bottles, but nobody made it elegant and said, okay, we can create low alcohol elements, and you're going with your girlfriends, you're going out, you carry your own little pouch. It's trendy, it's more seen as elite, and you're able to put it, so you can do mocktails. You can see that somebody created a kit, a cocktail kit, where it's telling people how they can make their own cocktails and mocktails that you can take. So opportunity for those people that are sitting in the beverage. Why am I showing you these examples? Is just to show you that there is so much out there, there's so much happening, but we're still sitting and thinking in a very localized way. We need to look for the white gaps. Where are the opportunities? And all of you are in these spaces. So, for example, this is freeze-dried organic snacks. So they're saying, wait a second, why can't I go and do snacks that can just be in the freezer, and you hear somebody takes it and they're able to eat it. And what they realized again, the snack segment is only focusing on fried stuff, big stuff. Okay, nobody, or air fried now, nobody is looking at what can be taken as frozen stuff in terms of convenience. What can we do that we know that anywhere that's got to be a freezer, what can we put in that space? So they're looking at wholesome, accessible kid foods. So you can see baby food, toddler foods being put in snacks, so that somebody is driving and one is going from here to Kumasi. They want to get a snack that they can give their kids. They can be able to take it, put it in the fridge, take it out, give it to them. Again, opportunity. And most of you are playing in that space. Cereals, stuff to do with millet, all that. An opportunity to be able to look at. Next slide, please. Then again, somebody sat there and said, wait a second, adults are having a problem. They don't have an opportunity to still have fun or be able to still be a kid inside, and have their lunch packs. So I know, I get fresh food every day. I'll make it in the morning, and then it's sent for me. But how many people we looked at? So what the insight here was that people were busy, consumers were busy, they were having demand, they don't have time to go and make food, they're missing out on nutrition. So people started creating multi-food boxes to be able to give them an opportunity to diversify and be able to say, here, it's ready. All you have to do is just maybe get your cucumber, throw it in, just chop some onions, put it in. But I'm giving you a pack that's ready, that's got yogurt, that's got this, that's got that, some that's got your wache all ready and all set to be put out. So again, it's an opportunity. So you're having people, you can see all their breakfast boxes, which means you can use them. People are preparing. So all you do is buy, move on. So instead of you having to go to the lady in the morning to get your porridge or whatever, you have already ready packs that are ready for you. Somebody doing your lunch pack for you. Next slide, please. And this was another interesting area. I'm not going to mention one of the mentees that is on the program right now, but this is an area of opportunity. So what they did was, this is taking things that you know that are localized. I mean, pakshito, your normal chito, things that Ghanaians are used to in terms of flavors, spice. How can you create it in such a way that all people have to do is now make an extension? Look, bears, sweets, but giving it a flavor, a Mexican flavor. So is there a market perhaps of people who are looking for, because we do know Ghana has a big market for things that are sour. We love things that are sour. So maybe, I'm not saying that there is an opportunity, but could somebody be looking at snacks that are shito flavored, snacks for that market, adult markets, it could be kid markets. So what I'm trying to do is to pull your mind to say that, think differently, look at what are the trends that are happening. Next slide, please. This particular one, I don't know how many of you have looked at an opportunity. You're working and assuming that all the consumers that buy from you are people that can read. Has anybody thought about doing something for the blind, the people who are visually impaired, people who are able to have the opportunity to say that, I'll be the first brand that is going to give you an opportunity to be able to touch and feel and say, my products are also appealing to the people who are blind. Now, this would be fantastic to have your products for the export market, because nobody's doing that. Right? And you just work with somebody who's a Braille consultant. You say, we're the first. So this is what I'm talking about, playing in spaces that are white spaces, white categories that you haven't thought about. For those in the cosmetics, next slide, please. We focus on skincare. We look at face because skin is the largest organ on the body. And I know we have a cosmetologist, a cosmetic scientist on here, and she will tell you that is the largest space you have on your body. We focus on everything else. No one has said, when it comes to lip, we look at things like lip gloss, lipstick, lip balm. But here is a brand that decided, wait a second, has anybody thought that lips also age? How can we do an anti-aging lip care? I never thought about that. I'm like, oh my God, that's so true. So while I might have great skin, I'm not thinking about my lips ever getting wrinkled and looking old and ugly, which is not going to match with anything else. So they've come up with all these things where you have a mood boosting lip treatment. So you apply it and it's actually a treatment. Now, for all of us that actually ever go, I don't know how many do, go to a facial care or do go for treatments. Have you ever seen anybody do anything for your lips? No. Opportunity, hydrating peptide lip oils. So mentee in cosmetics, opportunity down there. Next slide. Hair tool convergence. So this brand went and realized that consumers were pressed in terms of seeking solutions in terms of personal care routines, but they were tired of buying different tools that will be able to address all their needs. And that's me. I want to have my hair flat ironed. Sometimes I want it curled. So this is a perfect tool that in one box, in one device, I'm able to do it. Okay. So again, it creates opportunities. And does this mean that, again, whoever's in the hair care segment here, are you able to create something that will be able to deal with local hairs and weaves and wigs, that you could be able to invest and create it as your own brand? Next opportunity. Sorry, next slide. Yeah, next slide. So again, this is for mentee in cosmetics. Interesting opportunity. Sorry, next slide. Yep, there we go. Who thought about masculine eye care? Okay, looking at opportunities for eye masks for tailored men. at one point, men would never lotion their face. They would never, their skin would look like an alligator, who's never seen anything. And all of a sudden, now you find men wanting to cut their toenails. They want balm for their face. Yeah, I saw somebody laugh, but it's the truth. I get very embarrassed when I see men coming in their slippers and their feet are all gray, and you're like, dude, please, shea butter is available everywhere. But they are paying, and men's grooming is now become the biggest in the US, the biggest spenders are men grooming. It's the fastest growing opportunity. So there's opportunity for a lot of you, for the export market, to deal for our brothers, who are out there looking for hair care and stuff. And here is somebody who looked at an opportunity and said, wait a second, men don't want to age now because they're all looking for younger women. You'll find that men, when they're reaching their 60s, they're going through this. And that's why you see psychographics, they're going through this challenge. They're like, they feel once they age, they can't get younger women, even though they're married. So these are the kind of things that they are looking at. What can we do? Under eye gels. Nobody's doing it for the men. I can tell you, none of you is doing anything for the men's segment in this space. So opportunity, Tara. Next slide. Skin scent. I mean, perfumes have been there. Next slide, sorry. You have perfumes, but somebody said, how can I have consumers who are looking for a signature scent? Now, I'm a fiery person. I love things that are very strong. They have to be aromatic. Some people like woody. So here is an opportunity to say, how can we create signature scents that are defining certain women? So women in business, is there a scent that women in business would like to have when they're going into meetings and whatever? So somebody decided that, how can I create skin fragrances that are soft, that are strong, and can be paired with perfume, so you don't necessarily have to have a perfume. And now I've seen these things where they're having them just as balms and you just apply it. I don't know how many of you have seen that. It comes like a little gel, very similar to your shea, and you put in and you just apply it and you smell amazing, for hours. So another opportunity, another area. Next slide, please. So I know we're running out of time, but I just want to be able to just show you how understanding your market really make a difference and how you can grow. So somebody looked at mindful skincare again. I know there's a lot of stuff on cosmetics, but I guess because the world is moving to that in terms of how can we really make ourselves light is back. So this is somebody who looked at an opportunity and said people are fascinated by mind-body connection. So can we create products that will help you in terms of mindfulness, in terms of healing? So they created what you call neuro beauty sets that help you to ease. They've got books in there that helps you to write your thoughts. Mindful shopping. So again, an area that has a lot of opportunity, untapped. These are what we call white spaces. And then next slide, please. Again, if you look at cosmetics, we're looking at spaces like sunscreen. So we know one group of people tell you sunscreen is not very good for you. Another one tells you it's important. We're living in a country that sunscreen is key. But it's very interesting. There's an insight. As Africans, we don't apply sunscreen because we have a lot of melanin. Our cosmetic scientist is in here, but she will tell you that it's something that, regardless of the type of skin or melanin you have, it is something that we need to have. So the question is, has anybody looked at this opportunity and say, to create for the first time a sunscreen that appeals to African skin? So this is something that is very important for us. So you can see what they've even gone to that element of creating watermelon infused daily screens, looking at green tea. I mean, why can't we think of a moringa sunscreen? Why can't we think of folio sunscreen? I don't know, but what I'm just trying to say is, again, opportunity that is existing, and this is something that we could be able to tap the export markets coming out from locally grown, locally produced. And then last but not least example is the bamboo menstrual pad, right? You've seen people doing cloth, you've seen people doing other elements, but bamboo, this is now working very well in India. China's taken this on, and these are about consumers who are becoming environmentally conscious and creating products that if you take it and once they throw it, because the landmine is full of sanitary pads, even though we don't have sufficient sanitary pads to give our goal. That's the reason why government has subsidized on that and taken away taxes. But taking away taxes, does it still mean it's good for the environment? So what can we do that is creative and say that if somebody threw this, it is going to merge with the soil. And there have been trials and tests being done that pads that are decomposable put into the soil actually increases the pH value of soil. So opportunities again. Next slide, please. So this is just food for thought for you to look at. For those of you that are playing in the spaces of food, there is an opportunity for healthy snacks for kids. And the white space in there is maybe fortified fruit bars or fortified cereal bars, because most of you are in the agro space as well. Snacks, anything that we could do that is of lower oil, oil crunch, or air fried. And we do air fried plantain, air fried yam chips. I mean, things that can be very different. Personal care, I've shown you examples of things that we could do for our specific climate. Is there something that we could do? You know, I'm just giving you examples, baobab oil and charcoal based, because charcoal has become a big element again in the trending things. Home care, what can we do in terms of multi-purpose surface cleaners, but that are kid safe, because we're saying a lot of the products that we're using right now are not for kids. So could you create a category of bleaches or whatever that will be actually ideal for kids? Horticulture, looking at, I know we have somebody here in the space of green, horticulture and plants. What can we do for small spaces? What can we do in terms of taking care of plants when people travel? So these are just a few examples. Next slide, please. So what I'd like you to do is to continue to talk to your customers, continue to go online and read. Please ask your customers and your consumers, and even people who are not buying from you, what is it that they're looking for? What is it that they need? Because that will tell you whether there is a gap that is not being addressed in the market. Continue to track online your competitors. I don't know how many of you follow your competitors on their social media pages to see what they're posting. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a competitor that is just at your level. Follow your mightiest competitors, whether it's a Unilever, a Nestle, follow them, find out what they're doing in their spaces so that you can be able to know what is trending, because they are the people who spend money on research. So you may not be able to get that research, but at least you know what they're doing in there. And listen out to what's trending. Look at people, what the Gen Zs are doing on TikTok, on Snapchat. You know, follow those accounts and see what's new, what's trending. It's amazing to see a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses, things that they're doing, but you only find out about it on TikTok. And then do trials, do samples. There's nothing wrong in just trying. Somebody might say, I don't like it, you know. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to name the brand. There's an amazing mentee on here who does a lot of stuff in terms of soaps and whatever. And one of the things was that her product is supposed to, so the product, I'll just give you an example, is supposed to smell of ginger. It says ginger soap, but when you smell it, it doesn't smell of ginger. It smells of, let's say, menthol. But if you're going to be targeting me, the reason I'm buying it is because I'm expecting it to smell like ginger. So those kind of things are very important. And there are always free tools that you can go on Google, you can do Typeform, you can do WhatsApp polls, send it to one another. You know, like if you use my thing, what do you think is missing? And then it helps you to think differently. Next slide, please. So fifth homework for you today is to audit your category. Please go back, just look at the space that you're playing, look at the category that you're playing, try to understand where should you be playing. Are you playing in the space you're playing? Is there an opportunity where you're not? I just realized that the slides didn't show up on yours, but it's on mine, on how to calculate the total available market, the serviceable available market, and the share of market. So I will send that to you if it doesn't come up. I will send it to Jemima. She'll share it with you, because I want you to understand what I mean about how do you calculate that, so that you can understand what is the market that you should be targeting, because somebody's going to ask you what is the value of that market and how much of it are you looking at taking. And then map your competition visually, put down Kivo here, whether it is Nunua skincare. Do that. Look at your competitors. Look at where they're playing price versus quality, niche versus mass, and then be able to identify the gap. And that will tell you what your white space is. And what I say as a tip, don't look at what's trending. Trends come, trends go. Look at what's missing. So look at it as if you were the end consumer. What do you feel is missing in that market and it's not being addressed? And that's it, I think, from the slides you have.
Awesome. Thank you very much. This was, yeah, I already see people applauding you. I completely agree. This was
Thank you.
extremely insightful. I think we've learned a lot. I think some people have already taken some
Sorry, that's
business
all I could do
ideas.
for 1 hour. I could have gone into detail. Sorry.
Exactly. Oh, trust me, I know if we had given you 5 hours, probably then would still say we need more. This is absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. I think you've given us so many insights. I'm sure for a lot of people online, they have some ideas on things that they can tweak or add into their business. Again, for those that are in the growth stage track, they have you as their mentor. So I know that you'll be guiding them over the next few months. For those that are not yet in the growth stage, again, that's why we will be taking note of everyone that joined, so that when we're going to make a selection for those going to the growth stage, hopefully you can be a part of that group as well. Now, I'm going to check and see if there are people that have any questions. If you do have a question, I would advise that you mention maybe your name, your business briefly, and then you can ask your question. Again, we would be putting some of this online, so perhaps someone can hear about yourself, your business. So, yeah, if you have a question, I think there's a way to raise your hand on the app. If not, you can just unmute and ask your question. Um, okay, I think I see someone sent a message. Please, will you
Good
be
morning,
getting this
Jemima.
recording? Yes, the recording will be
Good
made
morning.
available. Hi, good morning, Esther.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I have a question. Fatima, first of all, thank you so much for this amazing and educating session. My name is Esther Equia George. You can call me Equia for short. I'm the founder of Go Green Pharmacy. So my question is, in terms of standing out amongst your competitors, we know, for example, we have a lot of people into skincare. We have a lot of people in the herbal businesses. In terms of listing your ingredients on your labeling or on your package, is it advisable to put out all your ingredient? Because I know we all have, though we have all of us in the same business, like for example skincare, but then our formulations are different, right? So and also because you want to protect your recipe, my question is it advisable for us to list or give out all the ingredient for formulation? What do you advise we do?
Definitely not. And you see, the labeling requirement and the labeling law, even as per FDA and Ghana Standards Authority, just tells you to label what is key, right? But that also doesn't mean that you can't create your own whatever. So I'll give you an example. One of the detergents brand that I built in Kenya is called Powerboy, right? And Gentle was another brand that I created, but Gentle spelled Gental. So it was a play on the name Gentle, because normally detergents are supposed to be harsh on people, and that came from an insight where people were like, Omo and whatever else was affecting their hands and stuff. So what I did was then I went and created an ingredient, and I called it contains stain X enzymes, right? It was just basically your normal enzymes that we put in your optical brighteners and whatever to make your product, whatever. But I named it as StainX enzymes, and then says contains StainX. So now the person who sees the StainX enzymes is thinking in their mind, oh, wait a second, so it's got an enzyme that removes stains, right? So you don't necessarily have to put, I wouldn't say that you do that, because obviously that is your trade secret, but you can also become smarter in terms of putting certain names in a certain manner where only you know what it is, but it benefits you to have an edge against your competitors. But yes, nobody goes and puts all the ingredients out there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for attending to the question. Thank you.
And I'm still waiting for my call with you.
Fatima, you mean myself?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Sure, we'll do. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
All right,
Any
thank
other
you. Any other
questions?
questions?
So I'm going to send you again, Jemima, the slides that had the TAM, which I realized was at your top, because I'd like everybody to know how to calculate what is a total available market and all that to be able to understand. I see
Right.
Sandra
Okay.
has her hand up.
Sandra, yes.
Yes, hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Sandra, and I'm founder of Nana Papa Limited Company. We're an agro processing company, processing frozen foods, yam chips, yam slices, frozen killing. Fatima, I was, my head was spinning listening to you because I see the gaps, like just listening to you and just assessing from the top of my head. How do you play in a market that's relatively new with very few competitors? Hearing psychographics was new to me. I heard it for the first time today. How do you, as a business, position yourself to maximize in a space that's relatively new, and that would be the frozen yam products. Frozen yam products are new on the market, and how do you position yourself as a small business to capture a bigger portion of that market and still maintain? Because my struggle now is, how do I scale within a market because it's relatively new, capture a good size of the market, and still maintain my quality? Where do I focus my money? Improve quality or marketing to capture the market because it's new?
Thank you, Sandra. So just a quick question. Okay, so by the way, you need to follow me on LinkedIn to understand about psychographics, because this is something that I've introduced recently. So everybody's all of a sudden like, oh my God, I did think about that, because you have to continue to evolve. And as consumers and whatever, we're all changing. Everything that we're doing is now based on mindsets. Okay. And I've written about it on LinkedIn. And I'm doing a lot of talks on psychographics. So maybe for the next workshop, I will take you guys through psychographics. Somebody's got their
Yeah, I just
audio
muted
on.
them.
So basically, so what happens with the psychographics is that it will also get you to understand how different types of, so you have people that you call aspirers, you have different people who are called the struggling poor, resigned poor, how your product can actually appeal to different people regardless. So it doesn't mean that just because something is priced, let's say 1,000 CDs, that the 1,000 CDs will only appeal to a person who's earning 10,000. You might be surprised that that brand can actually appeal to also a struggling poor, but in a different pack size, because it's the brand and what, remember there, you're meeting the aspirational need of want. So that maybe we could do another workshop on that. Now, just a quick question. Were you on the previous program? Because the yam chips and frozen chips, I remember dealing with um, um, one of the mentees on that. So I'm not sure if it was you. Um, so it's a very, very interesting space. I believe there's a lot of potential in that. I mean, one of the things that challenged me, and I remember when I received packs to try, the frozen yam chips came with mold in it. which was and it was delivered to me. I remember in Kumasi, and that was the first thing that put me off. And I was like, oh, wait a second. So these are the kind of challenges that you would face because it came from a personal experience. Now, frozen yam chips, I think, are an ideal thing to do because again, it's going into the space of wanting to have quick fixes, right? Now, the question then comes in with will market women be happy to buy a frozen chip packet in comparison to if they were to buy frozen yams themselves and sit all night and chip it off and do because they'll find it more economical. So you've got to find an approach. And again, we say that depending on the target audience, we look at what you think is their costs, and then how do we reach out to them and say, okay, but by the time you're spending all this time, you're paying for whatever. They might say, no, we're using our daughters and house help at home, so it's no extra cost. So we would look at that. But then the question then comes in the channels of where we would be selling it to. You're definitely looking at school canteens. You're definitely looking at hotels. You're definitely looking at restaurants because they don't have the time. What is the one unique selling proposition in there? It's about time. But then I would actually expand it to look at and say, wait a second, but what are the other things that people haven't tried with yam chips? So what do they do when they buy? So I eat yam chips in a different way. So once I fry it, I've got two ways that I do it. One is where I fry it and then I make sure I put salt, red chili powder, and lemon. So could there be somebody who's willing to give me fried yam chips that's already flavored with those? So all I have to do is just put it into the air fryer or fry, and it's ready. I don't have to buy chili powder separate, salt separate, lemon separate. Or there could be those that are looking at oregano flavored or pizza flavored or whatever. Are you able to do like a party pack where your one pack contains flavors of with red chili lemon, and within it you can get the oregano, a multi-pack. So there's different ways. It totally depends on the model that you're looking at. But I wouldn't just say play only in the space of just plain yam chips. That has its own audience, that has its own target. But then you want to expand, and that's why I said the portfolio creation and the category creation is very, very crucial because that's where you're able to then look at white spaces. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, just to mention again, there was a question on the recording and the slides. Yes, they will both be made available. So both the recording as well as the slides will be made available. Anyone else has any question? If not, then let me just check. No, okay. Thank you so much, Fatima, once again. This was extremely
No, thank you.
for all of us. Yes. And I like that towards the end, you also mentioned the importance of, getting feedback from your customers, finding out, what their feedback is on your product, what you can improve upon, etc. So the next workshop we're looking at towards the end of this month will be all around customer service, which is very key. I've had it in the past where maybe I used someone's product and it's done. I just haven't gotten to reordering. And if they then send me a message saying, hey, it's been a while, are you in use of any products? That's perfect. But sometimes the person selling is waiting, you're not receiving any email, you're not receiving a WhatsApp, you're not receiving any reminder. So sometimes there are ways in which we can also make sure that we're tapping into that when it comes to customer service. So thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for joining as well. So afterwards, the slides and the recording will be made available to all of you. Thank you.